Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at IonQ. It is time for another update, and on this chart it seems we have failed the channel eventually, right? We didn't manage to follow through within this hyper bullish structure we have been tracking in blue, and this means that we have to resume to our initial pattern we wanted to see form on this chart, which is still quite bullish. It is an initial 5-year move to the upside we have been tracking here in white. Right, we had this as a potential wave 1, a wave 2 down here, a wave 3 up, a wave 4 down, and this would be our 5th wave that would have formed a more substantial top. We have been tracking this all along as a leading diagonal, and everything seems to be in place. We actually don't need anything more to consider this pattern quite satisfactory in terms of its structure, but this also means that we are looking to form a larger wave 2 correction. Right now, I am looking to reach the area of support between $43.1 down to $30.9, and from these levels, I expect to form the reversal to significantly higher prices, ideally within a wave 3. This is what we have been initially tracking. The overall larger structure is a bit more complicated, which is why we don't have as much certainty that this would indeed be a wave 3, but we would still expect to form one more high within this movement to the upside after we complete our 3-wave correction into the white support zone that once again starts at $43.10. Now, not only have we been tracking the channel for the blue interpretation to still be possible, we have been considering even internal levels of support for a series of 1-2 setups, but actually even that failed. So I have been looking here for a potential 1-2 setup. I have been considering it possible to still form a wave 3, an impulse, as long as we were to hold $48.4. But this not only has been broken, not only the levels of support, but we have actually completely invalidated such an idea of a potential 1-2 setup. We have pushed below the beginning of this as a wave 1 to the upside. And sure, we have found structural support at this level. After all, we did previously form a more substantial bottom here. But yeah, this interpretation is no longer possible, and I have to consider what else can we track from a smaller time frame, because I would primarily expect to continue this path down, even though we have seen a bit of upside from the current levels. And sure, other interpretations would be possible that wouldn't require this larger wave 2 correction, but they wouldn't be trustworthy scenarios in my opinion, also because the risk-reward ratio we would have to consider at such levels would be not as favorable, right? We would have to actually give room all the way down to below the last level of support at the 78.6% retracement before we would have a stronger confirmation of a failure of this idea of a 1-2 setup. So internally within this structure, I am looking to continue this path down. I am looking to build even an initial 5-year move to the downside instead, where at this point, I could track this as a wave 3, a wave 4, and a wave 5. And I would actually have to be able to consider the deepest levels of resistance possible for such a structure, which would be up to $53 within a follow-up wave 4. Within such a correction, I would expect to build similar proportions with what we have in place for this as a wave 2. I would be looking, for this to probably take, what is it, like a few days, maybe a week, maybe a couple of weeks before we would have to actually resume this movement to the downside within this idea of a wave 5. The thing is, if we actually follow through within this orange path and form a 5th wave down, we would have the strong indication that after a 3-wave correction, we would need to expect it to be a high probability to form at least another 5-wave move to the downside. Overall, this would be no problem for the white interpretation, for the white scenario, as we would still have plenty of room within the support zone even for such a structure. But it would be expected to take some time to actually develop everything and form a more substantial bottom within this wave 2, and having such an initial 5-wave move to the downside would be our strong hint that this would be the likely path. Now, this isn't actually the only path down. It is possible to build a significantly more discrete ABC pattern, where we would have an internal 5-wave move to the downside within this structure, but I have several reasons to believe that this is not a particularly likely scenario. Nonetheless, it should be rather apparent if we are to extend directly lower within this wave to the downside as opposed to build a wave 4 in the orange interpretation, because as I was already saying, within this wave 4 in orange, we expect similar proportions with what we had in this as a wave 2 in orange. If I am to, let's say, already complete an ABC pattern here, which actually is a technical possibility, and continue directly to lower prices, I would have to strongly assume that this would be part of the internal structure of this wave down, where the entire structure might morph. It might not even still be able to be tracked afterwards as a wave 3 in orange, but as it stands right now, these are the most relevant levels of resistance I can give you. These are the levels of resistance where I know if I get a sustained break above the 61.8% retracement at $53, I would have to reevaluate not only the possibility of building an initial 5-wave move to the downside, but also the possibility of extending directly to higher prices. Nonetheless, without having an actual initial 5-wave move to the upside internally within this movement, I cannot provide a high probability trade setup. I cannot strongly indicate that we would have a good chance of pushing directly higher. Also consider that this last level of resistance is in line with structural resistance. That is also something we need to watch out for. Now, in the small time frame, we won't spend too much time here because these are extremely fragile patterns, but I could consider something like a 1, 2, 3, and I would expect then a wave 4 and a wave 5. It could theoretically build a 5-wave pattern, but keep in mind, those are going to be fragile. And even if we actually see the 5-wave pattern in place, within such timeframes, distortions being possible, it is quite easy to see such structures fail as well. Also keep in mind the structural resistance here at $49.3. We have formed a more substantial top in this movement to the upside, but once again, this is within a smaller time frame level. This is going to be more relevant for this internal structure than the large time frame structure. And in terms of support for such a pattern, I would have here a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and I could track down to the 50% retracement for direct continuation to higher prices. And if this happens to fail, if this happens to break below $47.8 in a sustained manner, we need to be strongly prepared that we would see continuation to lower prices, potentially quite directly, since again, it is still possible to extend within this movement down. The wave 4 is not confirmed to have actually started. It is favorable, but not confirmed. And for now, we will stop here. These are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.